live stream here and get us introduced. So we'll be live in about 5, 4, 3. Okay. All right, we've made it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's roundtable discussion panel. This is part of our Auto Shopper Experience series, one of several auto retail related webcast programs that we run each month. I am Ryan Girardi. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us on this live discussion. Today is Thursday, November 7th. And today what we're focusing on is the phone process, kind of two parts, the phone process and the inbound phone experience between auto shoppers and retailers. CallSource, who's on the call with us today, recently came out with an inbound phone experience study that we'll look at in the beginning and kind of set the stage of some of the findings that came out of that study. So Stephanie Robbins, she's Director of Strategic Accounts with CallSource, is on with us. We also have Jack Holcomb. He's General Manager at New Smyrna, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Chevrolet. And then Shean Kirin from CRM Backstop. And Shean is a key training partner with CallSource. So I will real quick just say, hey guys, welcome to today's discussion.
Thanks for having us.
Now, for folks that might be new to our webcast programs, this is conducted as a live webinar, and if you're registered and here as an attendee, then you are able to participate in the Q&A. So at any time during today's session, which we'll keep to about 30 minutes, feel free to pose questions, and then I will field those questions and toss them in there during the conversation. This is streamed live on YouTube, so if you're subscribed to our channel and you're watching either the live session, there is a chat console there. I'll check in on that as often as I can. Maybe you're watching the recording of this and you can use the comment section even after the fact, and we'll still be able to make you part of the conversation. It's recorded and featured on the AutoConverse podcast for convenience of listening as well. So if you're not familiar with our podcast, go ahead and search for AutoConverse when on your preferred podcasting app. So what I'd like to do, I mentioned the study, but Shean, you and Jack have had some extensive conversations. You work very closely with CallSource. So I think what'd be good is we know that incoming phone calls are one of the keys to success. So maybe you can kind of work with us here and Jack on what you guys think challenges are, both with handling calls and also scheduling them.
You know, I think, Ryan, if you don't mind, just kind of as a segue into that, when CallSource produced this study, what was interesting was not only the data between manufacturers as far as who, you know, has a little bit more opportunity for improvement there, but as a dealer, it's very important because it identifies where are our internal opportunities inside of the store. And where are some areas where we can capture some low-hanging fruit and bring a little bit more money out of to the bottom line instead of having it spill. I think Jack's probably an ideal person because he's experienced it firsthand, both in identifying the study and also looking at some of those challenges. So Jack, what do you think some of the challenges that you have seen inside of a store are?
Well, I think, you know, for me, the calls coming in is handling them properly, you know, and properly is time, asking the right questions, staying on script, staying in control, and then getting all of the information from the customer, then getting off in a real time and actually giving the customer some value in the call. So when the customer calls, answer their questions, give them what they're looking for, and then get off the phone call quick, so we're not wasting their time. That's kind of where we'd struggle, and those are the things, the training that's helped us, and that's, you know, but they're unique to that. You know, it seems simple, and then you listen to your phone calls, and you're like, why did that just turn into a 17-minute phone call? So it's as you start to listen. The one thing I had to do is when I was putting this together, is I had to do it myself. You know, I kind of went back through myself and put myself through training first. And those were the things that I did. So that's, I think the commitment for me was me first, then my employees. And that's where I'm at right now.
It's interesting you say that, because as we've seen various stores, various groups all over the country, what we've noticed is that it starts with actually paying attention to what's happening on the phone and being able to understand which calls to listen to hear, are we doing a good job or are we not? And then from there, once we establish that process, the challenge has always been, how do we hold people accountable to the process that we set out? Like, who's going to get involved in the store to keep that person on track when they're supposed to do their work? How am I going to give them an keeps them focused? So I think, and on that, Jack, what's great about it is I think you all have done a great job of how do you solve that challenge, right? How do you deal with the accountability and also just ongoing training so that they continue to get information that's relevant?
Well, I think I searched for it. I mean, I think the conversations that we had, I don't think it was, I don't know that I was necessarily comfortable. We had on-site training. We flew, we had an install, we came out, we talked. But I think where, for me, is where you're kind of searching for the right fit is, before you can issue accountability, you've got to actually get the people prepared. I mean, I'm going to hold you accountable, but I'm not going to train you or I'm not going to prepare you is kind of backwards. So before I started to hand out accountability, I needed to hand out skill. And that was for me, as I listened to the phone calls, I'm like, I hadn't prepared the people. So I had to prepare them before I could hand out the accountability. And that's kind of where I had to take a step back and say, okay, let me get these folks trained, but then what's the investment? And that's where we kind of searched, and being a part of it, I think I'm very comfortable where we're at now. And that's where, the phone calls coming in with the trainer, the one-on-ones, the investments, very fair. And I think my employees, they know they see me in the email threads. I ask them about it. After the comments come back from the trainer, I actually communicate with the trainer. It doesn't take me a lot of time. I'd say probably my investment time-wise is no more than 20 to 30 minutes when I'm dealing with the trainer, reading the email, talking to the employees. It's not a lot of time there. But I think the employees, from the investment side and my time side, they start to see value there. And I think that's, you get something for that. So for me, I think that's important. I've seen it in the comments and I've seen it from the feedback from the employees. So I think those things are important. And then you start to see the actual effort you just hear it in the phones. If you're actually reviewing the calls, you'll hear it, you'll see it. It's not, it's a thing you hear. It's not something you go, and then your numbers will start to get better. So those are the things for me, and we're nowhere near that. We still have issues and we still have problems, and we're by no means, if everybody wants to pick up the phone and call here and ask to set an oil point, you can still pick us apart, but we're getting better. And that's the one thing that we're working on.
Yeah, I would agree.
Real quick, I'm sorry. I want to turn to you, Stephanie, but I want to make sure Shean, I asked him to turn off his video because of bandwidth issues. So Shean, you're still with us and we can hear you, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, you sound great now. Go ahead, Stephanie. Sorry, had to interrupt there.
No, that's okay. I think everything Jack's hitting on, we believe at CallSource that it's a work in progress, right? And so the first step is always the awareness, right? And so once you're aware of, things that need to happen on the phone, then you can start making changes to get to where you want to go. So I'm glad to see that you are in the midst of that process. When we started looking at the phone experience study, we wanted to find some commonalities that we could use across dealerships and across brands that we felt would help them if they focused in on 3 key areas that could help them just start improving the process at the store. So we kind of stepped back and we looked at, 3 areas. 1, are they answering the phone? 2, are they connecting that shopper to the right person in the right department? And 3, are they setting hard appointments that's going to drive that consumer into the store? And by taking those three, data points, we could then average them out, consolidate them by brand, and then be able to see across the board where we could help OEMs and their dealers ultimately succeed in the long term. So that's, Jack, in working with you, I think we were kind of installing first the awareness piece and then moving towards our whole mission in life, which is to improve phone experience through our own set closed product set, and bringing in Shean and his team to help the dealers kind of take it to the next level.
Right. I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And that's like, so then you just build off that, but you have to start somewhere, and then you'll identify new issues. I think, and that's kind of where, I think if you would use the example, and we don't have it, but if you would show the dialogue back and forth between the trainers and, each operator, when the comments I get back, say Mary Beth, and then Brittany, and then it's the one-on-one with, this is what we reviewed this week. This is the issues that person's having, or the gains. It's that one-on-one individual. Every person has different issues. So for me, it's an a la carte per employee. It's not everybody has different issues. Well, someone's really good at getting that person, that appointment set, getting through the script and getting off the phone. The other person can't get started. The other, so that trainer has the ability to work each one of those unique problems with each person, and then give me the information back. And then I have the ability to go, talk to the employees and say, how's it going? The feedback from the employees is it's not threatening. It's not overwhelming. And it's actually, it's easy to understand. So it's not, that's the part, and they're actually doing it with
Jack.
Yeah.
I think it's something to clarify is that we went about teaching and training from a different perspective in this process. And what we decided was that the challenge in having a monthly or a set quarterly training is that by the time you come back out, they've forgotten everything that you taught them. And it seems that management in a store is so busy and has so many hats to wear that they simply don't have the time to go in and have a weekly training session with each individual employee. And so what we did different is we've taken every employee as an individual and scheduled a one-on-one 15-minute training session where we're going to look at something that happened well, look at something that was a challenge for them, and then help them come up with an answer to their, as opposed to trying to hit it with a shot. And I really, thanks to the study.
Yeah, it's funny how that slows down. Shean, your audio cut out.
Maybe we can kind of hone in a little bit, Jack, and kind of something you said earlier to me kind of resonated with me, right? Once you identified there was a problem, it was, how do I identify, how much this is going to cost me? And you said, it was a reasonable investment in continuous training that has been the key to success at this point. Are there any other things that you would kind of add to continue kind of the evolution?
Yeah, I think the other part of it is that as time goes on, like anything else, you have to make the investment. Either you're in or you're out. It's kind of like your health. If you want to stay healthy, you don't go get healthy, then stop training. If you want to be good at these skills, you got to stay committed. So I have other training that I committed to. I started some other things in the store about 2 years ago. I built 2 brand new dealerships. So I built both stores. I have all new technology. I want to go faster. I want to be more transparent with my customers. I want things to be easier for the customers and the employees. I thought the facilities, the technology, we just made it tough. The industry made it tough from the facilities, the technology on both the employee and the customer. And designing both my stores and buying the technology, as I really evaluated a lot of things, I said, hey, one of the things I've got to reevaluate is my commitment to training dollars within reason. And that's kind of where, you start talking, when you start building dealerships, you're talking millions of dollars. And then we start overlooking thousands of dollars to train the people to come in to use the stuff. So, but there comes a point where you got to adhere to budgets. So what I started doing is looking at my advertising budget, my vendor lists, and I had a lot of dead money in and call it spray and pray and kind of really underperforming, kind of just things that were left in the past that for dollar, what I did is I started replacing underperforming vendors and underperforming marketing dollars with training dollars. So I never added any money. I just replaced money that I thought was not performing to the standard that I wanted. What's happened is I've gone up. My sales have gone up. My performance in different levels, everything that I have in my store is measured, from my parts department to my service department. There's nothing that any employee has now, from operators to every operator comes in, they get appointments, everybody is on a measurable, just like my front of the house is. So there's no employee in the store that doesn't have some sort of measurable attached to them. Now, if I'm going to do that, I got to train them. And I trained all my salespeople, and I trained all my finance managers, and I trained all my sales managers. So I had to do that for the rest of the team. The operators funnel all that business to those folks. They were the ones that got left behind. So it was just trying to find that, and for me, it was coming to you guys, and we've worked through it. Now, what I like is the flexibility. The problems change when I have recalls, when I have, just different issues that pop up. We can change next week to a problem I might hear today, and I can call Frankie, or I can call my trainer, or just names for Frankie. So I call her, I say, hey, or I email her in a group email and say, hey, I want to work on this. And just like that, I'm now correcting to a problem I might hear in my deal saver alerts. So that's the part I like about it, is I don't have to wait. It's not a hard correction. It's not a big steer issue. It's an immediate correction. And then I can move on to the rest of the stuff I have and things I need to do to operate my stores. And I know that problem's being addressed immediately. So those are the things that I like about it, is it allows me to continue on to do what I need to do, but I'm fixing my problem. So that's what I like.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was just at a conference a few weeks ago, and one of the panelists said, dealers need to stop focusing on generating more leads and start focusing on cultivating the leads that they are already receiving. Yeah. And so it's interesting that you said that you moved some money around from the advertising side to, support kind of this training and, process problem that you were seeing in the dealership. And ultimately what I heard you say is you kind of have grown your sales and overall numbers within the store just by making small switches in your budget to do better with the leads. Yeah.
So it seems to me that, one of the biggest challenges we always have with paying for training is that it's an enormous expense, right? But the thing is that if we can do it remote and we can have it live one-on-one every week, not only does it cost less, but it's simply significantly more effective with each person, right? And so you're not trying to shave out thousands of dollars. You're shaving out small amounts for the people that need it most. And I think that's partially why it's effective, don't you think?
Agreed.
Well, and Stephanie, I'd even take that one step further. The night, like I would sit here now and say, because I've got two different training. I've gone from my I had service training and I've had phone training. So I've with my fixed operations, and I've had anywhere from $10,000 a month to $200 per, or whatever the number is, per employee. So that's a big variance. That's a commitment, right? From one level to the other. So I've gone from install month to month to month to quarterly maintenance. Okay. And what I would tell you is that what I would do with you guys is I would start to set standards on measurables. So once we have an employee that holds a standard, that maybe we don't do that person each week, if they're holding that standard, and say, okay, instead of every week, we're going to hold them maybe once a month. Now that investment isn't as great. Now, if the other employee is not holding that standard, correct, then maybe that's a weekly investment. And those are things that both parties win, that you continue the relationship, and you're not, spending money in that person. You're incentivizing the employee, if they don't really want to do the whole bunch of training, to keep their numbers up, right? And you're incentivizing that everybody wins a little bit by better numbers. And you keep the relationship going longer. because the training stays in the house where we don't have that break all the time. Like, oh, I've got it. We figured it out. We figured it out until all of a sudden, 18 months later, we look over there and there's new people sitting there that weren't there, that have not been through the training. And we call you back and go, hey, Stephanie, can we start over again?
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say,
we should never start over again. It should be continuous.
keep it going.
I've standards of it, and then that's the things that we kind of build on.
I've experienced that so many times with different dealers, different OEMs, where they feel like they've solved their problem. So they cancel the training. And then 2 months later, they're right back to where they started, at the beginning. And,
But from
it's
the dealer,
amazing.
the dealer is the investment at the beginning and the investment when you've got the install complete. I get the understanding. You always got to play devil's advocate. There is a different value in our mind. That's just the way we work. But now that I've gone through training, and which I've never done, I've been doing this almost 30 years. And what I would tell you is now I've found a way to continue training from install to maintenance. And that's the difference, because I don't have a lot of turnover at my store. So there's always going to be, you're going to have it, but I don't have a lot of it. I've got a lot of 15-year employees here. I've got some 20-year employees, but I have some turnover, and those people are going to need to be trained. So if you have an employee that's just kicking butt, I'm not going to go spend $200 a week if they're 85% appointment ratio, they're ripping and roaring on the scripts, and they're doing all the wonderful things. That's not where my investment needs to be. But I do all of a sudden have a little turnover and someone comes in, that's where the investment needs to be. And that's where the partnership has worked with, I started with you guys and we did fly somebody in here, and they sat here and they worked with my sales team, and they did work with my operators, and they did work with my BDC, and we've worked it down to this now. So there is somewhere between install and then that transition to a maintenance program once the install is complete. So that's how you continue. And I think that's the relationship from the beginning to the end, is how you got to figure out how to go from install money to maintenance money.
I'm kind of curious.
Well, Jack, I think
Go ahead.
I think a lot of that is that with when you look at most stores have a new employee coming in. You've got at least one a month.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got in addition to one new employee a month, you've got helping people feel better about whatever the objection they heard on the phone this week was that they didn't have an answer for. And so really, not only does it keep the cost down, but also if every week you know that you've got a set number of live one-on-one trainings, like you said, you can plug in the people that need to work, and they could do it in a way where they always feel like they're being built as opposed to in public, because when they do it in a group, they feel like they're being put down.
100%.
And one of the funny things about today's society is that they don't want to be in a place, they don't want to be uncomfortable in public. They want to be uncomfortable in private, where they can build up their strength, build up their confidence, and then get back out in public once they've practiced a little bit. Don't you think?
No, 100%. And that's the thing that, like I said, there's a lot of wasted money in hotel rooms and airplane tickets. And for me, this is the part about what you guys are doing that makes sense here for me, that I would rather have you 3 weeks a month or 4 weeks a month or 2 weeks a month than basically 4 days a month. I think it's a more valuable relationship to have you 26 weeks a year than it is to have you, an install and then whatever. So I just think and again, we've worked through that. I don't know when we did our first week, guys. It's been a while, but we're still together. So, and it's changed from the beginning to where we're at now. I know that we're getting better. I know my employees see value in it, and I don't write checks. I don't continue writing checks to things I don't see value with. So even though I just said I had some vendors and stuff that I had on the books, but I'm just saying that I see value in what we're doing. My employees are getting better, and we're unraveling some things of this rat's nest that I call my phones of working through problems. And one of it, like one of the things I'll give you, for instance, the one thing we changed was the status calls. We changed the way we did the script. Your script was a little different. I said, I want to work on, I want to change the first question to status, an appointment. Are you calling on an appointment or a status? Because I want to get my technology should eliminate that status call. If the operators can't do the work of the advisors. So we need to find out how to eliminate the status call. And lo and behold, when we start asking that status question, I get those status calls. We look into them, we find out what the problem is, we start working on the problem. That's a question, that's a script adjustment, and that's training that we did with you guys to solve a problem. And then we go back, we look in our CRM, and we start to find out why we're not getting, that's working with your training team. That's really solving problems other than just reviewing scripts and listening to phone calls. That's working through a problem.
That's really good info, Jack, that you were able to articulate that. Folks, we're coming down the last couple of minutes here. Stephanie, I know you were about to chime in. I just wanted to prompt the audience. I had one question come in, which I'll throw out after you talk, Stephanie, but kind of last call here for any questions from those that are attending. So Stephanie, I know you're about to chime in. Do you remember what your thought was?
I mean, I was, but I don't know if we have time. I was just curious because Jack said he's been in the business for 30 years and he really hadn't put a lot of emphasis on phone training, if I heard that correctly. And my question is, well, if phones are driving the most leads into the dealership, why aren't dealers investing in getting better on the phone?
Well, I mean, it's just been, create the biggest amount of, it's been weekends, I guess, just bring as much as you can, and just close.
Right.
Just controlled chaos. And that's big days. Everything I do now has a data point attached to it. I mean, there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just, again, like I said, I've literally retrained myself in the last 24 months. There's nothing that I don't do that doesn't have a data point attached to it. It's amazing what the results have been. So I would say, for me, it was just going back and the how we're communicating with our customers has changed. It's really, you stop and think about what how many, when it gets down to the, we talk about the funnel, and when it gets down to the end, when that customer's calling, they're pretty much done. It's one or two places. You don't get a second chance with these folks. You better be spot on when you pick that phone up. So you don't, and that's, like I said, the deal saver alert, all the things that come with that, second chances that are very important to not screw up. So that's why I did that.
Can you speak? This is actually just came in. Let me go back to the first question that had come up, Jack, which was, Stephanie, when you were talking about the study, you had mentioned the three metrics: the answer rate, the appointment set rate, and I think, I don't even remember what the third
Connectivity
was.
score.
Okay. Jack, are those in line with, you say, everything's a data point for you. Is that consistent with how you identify and measure on your side, those 3 points?
Yeah, I mean, well, I can tell you right now, I just had a conversation. I'm not going to give you which store I did it with, but I just had two managers in my office from two different stores explaining to one that his closing percentage on the phones was 10 points lower than the other ones. And he had 16 more phone ups last month than the other store. And how do you think that, I went through the dollars per, the PVR and what that was and how many dollars it was down to dealer fees and everything. And I showed him that number, what that 10 points of closing percentage on those extra 16 phone ups, and again, was 200 phone ups. I think this was the number, 216 phone ups. 10 points, you start looking at that number, it's a pretty significant number. $2,400 a copy, throw a dealer fee in there. That's a number, and then annualize it. And I want them to look at that number. So yeah, when you start looking at it, those are the things I look at, and these guys see it every day. And so yeah, when you say, does it make a difference? Yeah, it makes a difference. 10 points of closing percentage on a phone ups is huge. Every day I go home, before my guys go to bed, I get my closing percentages on my phones, my internets, and everything. So it's important.
And Ryan, I'll just piggyback on that. I think from a CallSource perspective, what we hone in at the dealership is really to pay attention to the appointment set rate. On average, dealerships are only setting 15% of their sales prospects to a hard appointment. That's 85% of missed opportunities that dealer could have had if he would have just asked for I like to call it the sale, but asked for the appointment. And that's what Jack is talking about when he talks about those deal saver alerts. He gets alerted every single time his people don't take it to the level of asking for appointments. So him and his staff can follow back up with that customer and hopefully get them in the store, because it's like the 50-50, like 50% of the calls should set an appointment. 50% of the appointments should close or should show up at the dealership. And then 50% of the people that show at the dealership should close. And so that's kind of what I've always used in the industry. If I'm wrong, Jack, you correct me. So it's so important to get those people setting hard appointments and getting them in the store. And then Jack can measure, are they closing or not?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely, like I said, it's everybody. It's funny because when my BDC rep for my service department texted me this weekend, she set 16 appointments on Saturday, just outgoing phone calls. It's everybody has a number. And I text her at the annualized number on those 16 phone calls with her 82% show ratio that she has of the outgoing BDC phone calls that we have in the service department is $282,000 annualized. And I kept screenshot her, the calculator on your phone. I said, you know what that number is? She goes, my pay raise? I go, no.
I knew she was going to say that.
I go, that's your appointments annualized if they have your 82% show ratio. Yeah. That's the way I want my employees to think. And it's getting that mindset to change, not only to a monthly, but to an annualized number, because the numbers are that big.
Well, we're out of time, folks. Sean, if you wanted to maybe put the icing on the cake here, the mic is yours.
I guess it makes me think that we all need to look at what happens on those incoming phone calls and find an answer. And the answer is, what is the most cost-effective way to continually train our employees and give them what they need on an individual basis so that I can build the person and stop the turnover. And I mean, when it comes to a training program at $200 a week per employee, I don't know you're going to find a better fit than that. And if a dealer like Jack, who had never really prescribed to a phone training program before and has always been successful, is seeing that kind of lift, I would hope that that difference can happen at a lot of other stores as well.
And Ryan, I have one thing. I was just jotting down notes as we were listening, and how I would want to summarize to a dealer that maybe isn't currently, tracking their phone calls. And I was like thinking of 5, kind of ideas. First of all, to the dealers out there, if you're not listening to your phone calls today, you need to start, right? Awareness is key. You need to know how your people are handling your customers on the phone. If you feel like they need help, pick a partner that is committed and flexible to your success, making sure that you're first and that we're following the process that you need based on your needs. And then 3, make sure you're setting the baseline based on the key metrics. I like the 3 that we set up in our study, which was answer rate, connectivity score, and appointment set. And when I say appointment set, I mean hard appointments, not soft appointments. 4 is all about having a champion in the store. So Jack is a great champion, continuing to push the mission when the trainers aren't in store or on the phone with the sales reps. And last is just measure to make sure that you are being effective in affecting change in the store.
I would say, for me, the one thing, if I could give advice to the people out there, like I said, I've been at this for 2 years, again, 5 years building the 2 stores and retraining myself, is be patient. Don't try to do too much too quick, because you'll just overrun your employees. You'll burn them out, and you'll run them out. And that's, for me, it's been hard, because you're like, why are we not picking this up quicker? It's because it takes time to get this stuff in. It's just like reps, and anything that we do, sports is familiar with me. And it's like a throwing motion, getting a throwing motion down or a golf swing down. You don't get to go to the range twice and have a great golf game. And so for me, what I've done is like I said, I pick and choose my battles, and it's one thing at a time. get that down, then move on to the next thing. And then that's, I don't know that we're all built that way, but I've been patient and the results have been good. It's just a little slower than I'd probably prefer to go. But now that I'm 2 years into it, I'm happy with looking back, but it's been a journey.
Well, thank you, Jack.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and call this a wrap. And what I'm going to do is just so everyone knows what to expect, let me reshare my screen here for you folks. If you are subscribed to autoconverse.com, you'll get email alerts every time we put announcements up like today's panel discussion. This is part of the Auto Shopper Experience Roundtable panel discussion, which you can find under the webcast section on our website. Here's where we list what we're talking about. There's links to the previously recorded sessions. If you want to participate in the live webinar, go ahead and get yourself registered. Once you're registered with the series, you are always registered unless you cancel your subscription to it. And what'll happen is every month when we plan these out, you'll get an email with a link to your access here on Zoom. There is a calendar of programming up here so you can see all the different events that we have. We'll be back next month. I think December, probably as early as December 3rd for another session of the Auto Shopper Experience. Thank you guys for taking the time. Thank you folks for joining us. And we're going to go ahead and shut this down. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone.